The truth doesn't knock anymore. It scrolls, syncs, and autosaves. There was a time when secrets could survive on memory alone. You could deny, deflect, and rewrite the story as many times as needed. Today, that luxury is gone, because the modern confession isn't spoken, it's stored, quietly, patiently, in a device people guard more fiercely than their own reputation. Phones don't forget, don't get tired, and don't feel sorry for anyone. They just wait. Here's a fact most people aren't ready to sit with. The average person checks their phone over 100 times a day. That means over 100 small decisions, impulses, habits, and curiosities quietly stacking up. Each tap leaves a trace. Each swipe leaves a pattern. Over time, those patterns start telling a story. Not the one people tell others, but the one they live when no one is applauding. What makes this moment different is not exposure. Exposure has always existed. What's different now is precision. Lies used to be vague and deniable. Now they come with timestamps, locations, search histories, and deleted folders that were never meant to be found. The phone doesn't argue. It doesn't care about titles, spiritual language, or how convincing someone sounds in public. It just shows the receipts and lets the silence do the judging. And yes, there's a strange kind of irony here. The same device people use to post wisdom quotes, send good morning prayers, and present themselves as deeply aligned is often the same place where the truth is quietly betraying them at 2:17 a.m. It's almost funny, in a "you really thought this wouldn't come back" kind of way. This isn't about invasion, it's about revelation. When the evidence surfaced, it didn't create a new reality. It confirmed an old one. What was hidden simply lost its hiding place. And once that happened, the story didn't fall apart dramatically. It collapsed calmly, logically, and beyond repair. Because when the truth lives in someone's phone, denial doesn't stand a chance. Number 1. Their phone revealed the person they thought no one would ever meet. People spend years building a version of themselves they want the world to see. Polished words, careful behavior, controlled reactions. But the phone doesn't carry that version. It carries the unfiltered one, the late-night searches, the private conversations, the quiet habits repeated when there's no audience and no applause. That's the person they never planned to introduce to anyone. What makes this so devastating is how casual it all feels. No dramatic betrayal, no movie-style exposure, just normal usage, scrolling, typing, deleting, saving. Over time, those ordinary actions start forming a clear picture. Not who they say they are, but who they default to when effort drops. The phone becomes a diary they forgot they were writing. This is where the lie collapses. Not because someone made a mistake once, but because the same behaviors keep showing up in different places. The tone stays consistent. The interests stay consistent. The intentions don't change. You can pretend in public for a long time, but you can't fake patterns in private. The phone captures repetition, and repetition always tells the truth. What's uncomfortable is that this exposure isn't cruel, it's fair. The device didn't twist anything, it didn't misinterpret motives, it simply stored what was given to it freely. Every tap was voluntary, every message was intentional. The person revealed there isn't a stranger. It's the most honest version available. And here's the quiet irony. Many people protect their phone more than their integrity. Passwords are locked down tight, notifications hidden, screens turned away. Not because the device is valuable, but because what's inside threatens the story they're selling. They know deep down that if those habits were seen clearly, the image wouldn't survive. In the end, the phone didn't expose a secret life. It exposed alignment, or the lack of it. The gap between who they perform as and who they practice being. And once that gap becomes visible, there's no fixing it with explanations or charm. because the phone didn't reveal a moment, it revealed a person. Number 2, the timeline didn't match the story. A story is only as believable as the details that support it. And for years, some people have been counting on everyone's willingness to accept a narrative without checking the clock, the dates, or the small, silent markers of truth. But the phone keeps track of time in a way no human memory can. It records every moment a message is sent, every call made, every photo captured. Those timestamps don't lie, and when they contradict the story someone carefully crafted, the lie falls apart faster than anyone expects. It's not always dramatic. There's no explosive reveal or cinematic climax. Sometimes it's just a small notification, a calendar entry, a location tag that quietly contradicts the claims someone has been repeating for months or years. One moment they said they were somewhere, doing something honorable or acting with integrity. The phone shows they were elsewhere entirely. That mismatch is brutal because it doesn't need opinion or interpretation. Facts exist, plain and simple. The real danger in a timeline mismatch is psychological. People spend so much time rehearsing their stories that they forget reality doesn't pause for performance. Every decision, every late-night message, every unnoticed tap leaves a trail. When that trail is compared to the version of events someone has sold, the truth doesn't just poke holes. It burns the whole facade down. It's also where trust dies silently. No accusation, no shouting, just a quiet realization that someone's words can't be relied upon. The timeline is patient and precise. It doesn't care if a person is popular, convincing, or even likable. Time is impartial, and when it contradicts the narrative, it leaves nothing for excuses to grab onto. Ultimately, the timeline doesn't just show dishonesty. It reveals priorities, choices, and intentions. It exposes where attention was truly placed, what mattered in reality versus what mattered in performance. And when the story doesn't align with the timeline, the truth is no longer a suggestion. It's a verdict. The narrative dies, quietly but completely, leaving only the raw facts that were never meant to be questioned. Until now. Number 3. Deleted messages spoke louder than saved ones. People believe that deleting something erases it from existence. They think that a message removed, a chat cleared, or a folder emptied means the secret is gone forever. But deletion is often the loudest form of admission. It's the part of human behavior that says, without words, I know this will tell the truth if anyone sees it. Every erased message, every emptied trash, every carefully hidden text carries a weight far greater than what remains visible. The irony is brutal. People delete to protect themselves, to hide mistakes or manipulate perception, but all that effort only draws attention to what they fear the most. Absence becomes louder than presence. A blank chat doesn't feel neutral, it feels guilty. It screams that something happened there worth covering up. The phone becomes the silent judge, showing not just what was said, but what someone never wanted anyone to see. And the pattern matters more than a single deletion. One message could be a slip, a momentary mistake. But repeated deletions over time reveal intention, obsession, and priority. The act of erasing becomes a behavior in itself, a trail pointing straight to the truth someone hoped would stay buried. Each attempt to bury reality only builds a map of what they were trying to hide. What makes deleted messages so powerful is that they can't lie about timing, sequence, or connection. They silently prove that the person had knowledge, awareness, and opportunity. No explanation or excuse can fully undo the message that was once there and then removed. Even if the words are gone, the story they hint at lingers, visible to anyone willing to read between the lines. At the core, deletion isn't a safeguard. It's an admission. It shows fear, awareness, and often guilt. It proves the person knew the truth would not survive scrutiny. In that sense, the deleted messages become louder than any saved ones could ever be. They are the whispers of reality in a world of rehearsed performance, quietly exposing who someone really is when they thought no one was watching. Number 4, their curiosity betrayed them. Curiosity is often painted as harmless, even admirable. It's the spark of learning, the desire to know more. But in the wrong hands, or when unchecked, it becomes a quiet exposer of truth. Phones record every search, every link clicked, every little exploration that someone thought would vanish into nothingness. Those seemingly innocent moments betray motives, desires, and obsessions that the person would never admit aloud. Curiosity doesn't lie. It whispers the secrets someone tries to keep hidden. The irony is sharp. People spend years building images of themselves as disciplined, loyal, or morally upright, yet their digital curiosity quietly undermines it all. Every late-night search, every sudden fascination with something they publicly condemn, every repeated look into forbidden territory, all of it is logged, saved, and time-stamped. These patterns reveal what really occupies their mind when no one is watching. It's not a single act, not one accidental click, but the consistency of interest that exposes intention. Curiosity also shows priorities in a way words never can. What someone seeks, investigates, or obsesses over in private reflects what actually matters to them. It reveals the pull of temptation, the strength of hidden desires, and the ideas they flirt with before action even happens. The phone doesn't care if their public persona matches. It simply records where their attention goes, over and over again, leaving a map of the inner life they wanted to keep secret. And there's a subtle humor in the betrayal. People often think curiosity is invisible, something that disappears when the screen is locked. But the device remembers everything, quietly cataloging evidence while the person acts as if no one could ever see. Their own interests, their own questions, become the proof against the story they've been telling. In the end, curiosity is a mirror they never intended to hold up. The phone doesn't just show what they did, it shows what they wanted, what they feared, and what they truly thought about when no one else could. It's a reminder that desire, even silent, cannot hide forever, and that sometimes the questions we ask reveal far more than the answers we give. Number 5. Patterns exposed the lie, not one single act. A single mistake can be excused, a single slip can be explained away. But patterns? Patterns never lie. They don't need context, excuses, or justification. They quietly build a narrative over time, revealing what someone really is when no one is watching. The phone becomes a silent witness, documenting habits, behaviors, and choices in a way that one-off moments never could. It doesn't matter how convincing the story is or how polished the explanation. Repetition tells the truth better than any confession ever could. People often underestimate the power of repetition. One deleted message, one questionable search, one awkward interaction might be overlooked. But when the same behavior repeats across days, weeks, or months, it stops being a coincidence and becomes a clear signature of intention. The patterns are impossible to ignore because they leave breadcrumbs everywhere. The timings of messages, the recurring topics, the frequency of certain searches, the contacts that appear over and over. Even when someone tries to hide it, the rhythm of their actions betrays them. Patterns are dangerous because they reveal consistency in the wrong places. They show who someone is under pressure when they think no one is watching, and how they act when convenience outweighs morality. A lie can be clever. A pattern is brutally honest. It exposes priorities, reveals truth in silence, and highlights contradictions that the person may have spent years covering up. There's also a subtle elegance in it. The phone doesn't accuse, it doesn't judge. It simply shows, day after day, what someone chooses to do and how they choose to live. The repetition of actions paints a picture that words cannot erase. It's the difference between performance and reality. And once the pattern becomes visible, excuses collapse. Ultimately, patterns are the fingerprints of truth. One act can be dismissed, one story can be defended. But repetition leaves no room for escape. The lie isn't exposed in the single moment. It's exposed in the rhythm of someone's life, quietly proving who they really are, far beyond what they ever admitted. Number 6. They were living two moral codes at once. Some people present themselves as saints in public, preaching values, boundaries, and loyalty, while quietly bending or breaking those same rules in private. The phone doesn't care about reputations or polished speeches. It only records behavior, revealing when someone is living under one moral code for show and another in secret. The contrast between what they say and what they do becomes undeniable, and the gap is where the truth screams the loudest. It isn't about occasional mistakes. Everyone slips up now and then. It's about consistently holding one standard outwardly while following a completely different one behind closed doors. Messages, searches, and app activity quietly document choices that contradict the public persona, showing where the real priorities and beliefs lie. The duality doesn't need witnesses. The evidence is already in the device, time-stamped and organized in a way that exposes intentions effortlessly. What's striking is how natural this duplicity feels to the person living it. They may even believe they are clever, thinking no one will ever notice the contradictions. But digital life is relentless. Each chat, each hidden photo, each deleted search builds a map of who they really are, not who they pretend to be. The public image becomes a performance, while the private life tells the unedited story. And when those two worlds collide, the result isn't messy drama. It's the quiet, unavoidable collapse of credibility. This dual moral existence also explains why trust evaporates so fast once exposure happens. People don't just feel betrayed by lies. They feel betrayed by the realization that someone they admired was living two lives at once. The phone doesn't fabricate anything. It only reflects choices, exposing a hidden moral framework that wasn't designed for public approval. In the end, living two moral codes isn't sustainable. It might survive for a while under layers of charm, excuses, and secrecy, but digital evidence is patient and impartial. Once it surfaces, the contradiction is clear, and the carefully constructed image can't withstand the reality of documented choices. The phone doesn't judge, it just reveals. Two moral codes exist only in the mind of the one pretending. Number 7. Receipts don't argue, they conclude. Words can twist, excuses can bend reality, and stories can be polished until they sound believable. But receipts don't negotiate. They don't bow to charm, logic, or tears. A screenshot, a timestamp, a bank alert, or a saved message doesn't argue. It concludes. They are the final word in any debate, the irrefutable proof that shows what actually happened, not what someone claims happened. And once those receipts surface, everything the person tried to hide or justify collapses quietly but completely. Receipts are more than records. They are mirrors of truth. They don't care about intention, reputation, or image. They simply reflect actions, choices, and reality. Someone can paint themselves as loyal, ethical, or responsible, but the evidence stored in their phone paints a different picture. One tap, one message, one financial transaction. It doesn't matter how minor it seems. Collectively, they reveal priorities, patterns, and intentions far more accurately than words ever could. The beauty and danger of receipts lie in their impartiality. They are not influenced by charisma or explanations. They don't forget. They don't misinterpret. Each piece of evidence tells a story, and when combined, they form a narrative so clear that denial becomes almost impossible. It isn't about shame or punishment. It's about undeniable proof. The phone becomes the courtroom, and the receipts are the verdict. People fear receipts because they reveal consistency in behavior. One mistake can be forgiven, a slip can be excused. But repeated documentation, carefully saved or accidentally preserved, shows patterns that can't be rationalized away. It exposes not just what someone did, but what they were willing to do repeatedly when they thought no one was looking. Ultimately, receipts conclude what lies cannot. They turn speculation into certainty and silence into judgment. They don't ask for belief or trust. They simply exist, unwavering, waiting to be read. And when that moment comes, the person who thought they could control the narrative realizes that reality doesn't need explanation. Reality just shows up. Number 8. Their confidence was built on believing they'd never be checked. There's a certain kind of arrogance that comes from thinking no one is watching. Some people carry themselves with an air of invincibility, making bold claims, acting without restraint, and taking liberties they would never admit publicly. That confidence is rarely about courage or integrity. It's about calculation, the belief that their actions are invisible, that no one will dig, no one will notice, and no one will hold them accountable. The phone shatters that illusion instantly, revealing that the bravado was never strength. It was blind assumption. This isn't about one mistake exposed in the wrong light. It's about a lifetime of misjudged security. Messages, searches, photos, and logs quietly accumulate evidence while the person moves through life thinking their secrets are safe. Each action reinforces their confidence because it goes unnoticed, until it doesn't. The irony is sharp. The same tools they use to control perception are the ones that capture truth relentlessly. Every tap, every scroll, every private interaction becomes proof against the story they were selling. The danger of this mindset is that it blinds people to reality. When you believe you are untouchable, your decisions become reckless. You say things you wouldn't admit, engage in behaviors you'd normally avoid, and assume consequences will never reach you. The phone, with its patient memory, catches everything. It doesn't judge or comment. It simply stores the evidence, waiting for the moment when belief in immunity meets the inevitability of exposure. Once that moment arrives, confidence crumbles. The same person who acted untouchable is revealed as ordinary, flawed, and deeply human. There is no defense against what is documented. The arrogance of thinking no one will check becomes the very thing that ensures downfall. In the end, the phone doesn't just expose lies, it exposes assumptions, recklessness, and misplaced self-assurance. Confidence built on the idea of invisibility is always fragile, and when the unseen becomes visible, the fall is complete. What looked like courage was never strength. It was vulnerability waiting to be discovered. Number 9, they outsourced their secrets to a device. Some people carry their secrets like trophies, storing them carefully in memory behind walls of denial or buried under layers of performance. Others, perhaps unknowingly, outsource that burden to a device, their phone. Every conversation, every photo, every search, every saved note becomes a silent partner in keeping their truth. It seems convenient, harmless even, until the device begins to talk. The very thing they trusted to guard their secrets becomes the witness that cannot forget. The danger of outsourcing is subtle. A phone doesn't judge, doesn't gossip, and doesn't confront. It simply records, collects, and preserves. What feels like security, storing confessions, questionable messages, or hidden plans, is actually a ticking archive. Each piece of data is a footprint, a breadcrumb that shows who they are, what they value, and what they hope no one ever discovers. The irony is bitter. Convenience becomes vulnerability. The more they rely on the device to hold their secrets, the more exposed they become. There's also a psychological trap. Outsourcing guilt or secrecy can make someone feel lighter, as though storing evidence digitally absolves them from responsibility. They think, it's hidden, it's safe, no one will see. But digital memory is patient and impartial. It doesn't vanish. Every deleted message, every hidden folder, every private search has the potential to surface, leaving the person defenseless before the truth they once stored casually. This dependence on technology also highlights a deeper truth. People often cannot contain their own impulses. If they were capable of complete discretion, they wouldn't need to store it externally. The act of outsourcing is a confession in itself. It shows awareness of wrongdoing, a fear of accountability, and an overestimation of control. In the end, the phone doesn't just hold information, it holds evidence of human fallibility. Secrets left in the device are not erased by time or intention. They exist patiently, waiting to reveal what the person thought was untouchable. Outsourcing secrets may feel clever, but it is, in reality, a contract with inevitability. The device will always remember what its owner hopes to forget. Number 10. Their loyalty was conditional, and the phone proved it. Loyalty is often talked about like it's a constant, a value that defines someone's character. But in reality, loyalty isn't a feeling. It's a series of choices, repeated over time, under varying circumstances. The phone captures those choices in a way no claim or speech ever can. It doesn't care about intentions, promises, or excuses. It only records what someone actually does, and in those records, conditional loyalty becomes undeniable. People often think loyalty is measured in big gestures or dramatic declarations. The truth is far quieter. It's measured in repeated actions, who they respond to, who they prioritize, who they keep in confidence, and who they abandon when opportunity arises. Messages, calls, hidden contacts, and search histories reveal patterns that expose the real truth. When loyalty depends on convenience, advantage, or fear of exposure, the phone shows it silently but completely. Every interaction, every private communication paints a portrait of allegiance that words alone cannot cover. The cruelty of conditional loyalty is in its subtlety. People assume no one will notice the choices they make when no one is watching, believing that outward appearances of faithfulness are enough. But the phone remembers everything. The evidence doesn't judge, it simply presents facts. And those facts tell a story far more revealing than any public display of virtue ever could. When private behavior contradicts public promises, loyalty is proven to be transactional, not genuine. There's also a harsh clarity in this exposure. Conditional loyalty isn't about malice, it's about self-interest. It's about survival, convenience, or desire. And the phone doesn't allow these motives to hide. It shows where attention went, whose interests were prioritized, and how commitment changed under pressure. Ultimately, the phone doesn't just expose disloyalty. It exposes choices made quietly, repeatedly, and without regard for appearances. When loyalty is conditional, the truth doesn't wait to be revealed. It is already documented. And once it surfaces, excuses collapse, trust evaporates, and the person is left facing a record of actions that speak far louder than any promise ever could. Number 11. They underestimated how much habits reveal belief. Habits are the quiet signatures of a person's true self. They don't shout. They don't need witnesses. They simply repeat, day after day, leaving traces that speak louder than declarations ever could. The phone captures those habits in ways people rarely notice. Every tap, every scroll, Every repeated search or conversation is a clue, a subtle confirmation of what someone really values, desires, or fears. The irony is that people spend so much effort controlling what others see, while completely underestimating the story their routines are telling. The danger lies in consistency. One action can be brushed off. One curious search or impulsive message might seem insignificant. But when the same behaviors occur repeatedly, they form a map of priorities and beliefs that no amount of public image crafting can erase. The phone doesn't just store events, it stores intention. Every habit is a breadcrumb, leading straight to the truth that the person believed could stay hidden. Habits also expose contradictions. Someone might preach discipline, ethics, or loyalty, but the habits recorded on their phone tell a different story. They show what the person defaults to, what excites them, and what they engage with when no one is watching. This is where the illusion of control falls apart. It's not about getting caught in a single moment. It's about patterns that quietly betray the person behind the mask. What makes it compelling is the objectivity. The device doesn't interpret motives or judge morality. It simply preserves consistency. And that consistency is a reflection of belief. What a person repeatedly does reveals what they actually believe about themselves, about others, and about the world. The habits they think are private are, in reality, the most honest testimony of character. In the end, underestimating habits is a fatal flaw. People assume they can control perception through words, gestures, and public appearances, but private routines captured digitally are far more revealing. Habits aren't accidental. They're proof of belief, written quietly in the fabric of daily life, patiently waiting to expose the truth no performance can hide. Number 12. The phone showed who they were preparing to become. A person's future intentions often leave footprints long before they are acted upon, and the phone is an unblinking witness to that subtle planning. People think the future is invisible, a realm untouched until the first step is taken. But habits, searches, messages, and notes quietly reveal the path someone is paving for themselves. The phone doesn't just document the present, it hints, nudges, and exposes the person someone is becoming, whether they are aware of it or not. This exposure isn't flashy. It isn't a single dramatic moment. It's in the repeated curiosities, the growing contacts, the patterns of thought and action that slowly build into a coherent trajectory. A person might claim loyalty, morality, or ambition in one direction, but the device quietly chronicles preparations that betray a different truth. The future self, shaped by choices and hidden interests, is already visible in the data. It's the silent outline of what they're willing to risk, who they are choosing to influence, and the life they are cultivating in private. The phone's revelation is brutally honest, because it strips away excuses. People can explain away words, performances, or one-off actions, but preparation leaves evidence that cannot be rationalized. The repeated research, the covert planning, the careful monitoring of opportunities, all of it forms a blueprint of intention. Once uncovered, it's impossible to deny that someone was quietly shaping a version of themselves that few imagined, a self that may even contradict the identity they proudly display. There is also an unsettling clarity to it. The phone doesn't judge the morality of what is being prepared. It only shows consistency and intention. It reflects ambition, desire, and the quiet choices that gradually define identity. The person may have thought they were merely exploring, experimenting, or dreaming, but those actions reveal commitment to a path that will inevitably manifest. In the end, the phone is a crystal ball without opinion. It captures the subtle formation of a person's next chapter long before they step into it publicly. And when those traces surface, the illusion of who someone is today falls away, leaving the undeniable outline of who they were already preparing to become. Number 13. They confused privacy with immunity. Many people believe that if no one sees their actions, they are untouchable. Privacy, in their minds, equals safety. They hide chats, delete messages, lock apps, and carefully curate what others can access, thinking these measures protect them from consequences. But privacy is not immunity. The phone silently disproves that belief. It remembers everything, storing choices, habits, and actions in ways that exposure cannot erase. Hiding doesn't protect the truth. It simply delays its discovery. The real danger of this confusion is overconfidence. When someone believes that privacy shields them, they act recklessly, assuming no one will ever find out. Late-night searches, hidden conversations, and secret interactions feel invisible. Each act reinforces the illusion that they are untouchable. Yet the very device they rely on to remain private quietly records every step, every decision, and every misstep. What they think is safe and unseen is, in reality, meticulously documented. The phone doesn't care about intent. It doesn't care if the hidden behavior aligns with ethics, morality, or loyalty. It simply stores the truth. And the more someone believes in their immunity, the more brazen their actions become, leaving a trail that eventually exposes not just what they did, but who they really are. Patterns emerge, revealing priorities, desires, and weaknesses that the person never intended to share. There's also a bitter irony in the realization. People spend years perfecting appearances, crafting stories, and defending reputations, all while assuming their private choices are untouchable. The phone, patient and impartial, quietly shows the contradiction between their public image and private life. It demonstrates that secrecy is temporary, and that no matter how hidden, the truth has a way of surfacing. In the end, confusing privacy with immunity is a fatal misjudgment. Privacy is a shield for observation, a buffer for discretion. Immunity implies invulnerability. The phone exposes the difference effortlessly, showing that hiding actions does not hide the person behind them. Choices recorded in private speak louder than any performance ever could, and once uncovered, there is no excuse that can erase what was already documented. Number 14. Exposure. Wasn't the end, it was the verdict. Exposure isn't just about being caught. It isn't a moment of embarrassment or a fleeting shock. When the evidence surfaces, it serves as a verdict, a final statement of truth that cannot be denied or debated. The phone doesn't whisper, it declares. Every message, every search, every time-stamped action quietly accumulates into a judgment, one that confirms what people suspected, feared, or refused to see. The moment of exposure is not the climax. It is the conclusion, the undeniable reality that the story someone told themselves and others has ended. What makes this so powerful is that exposure doesn't create new truths. It only reveals what has always existed. Lies, hidden behaviors, conditional loyalties, and secret intentions don't vanish with denial. They have been quietly documented, preserved in patterns and habits that the person could never fully control. When those patterns are uncovered, there is no debate, no negotiation. The evidence speaks, and the verdict is clear. The public persona and the private reality were never aligned. There's a brutal clarity in this kind of revelation. Exposure doesn't yell, it confirms. It doesn't need witnesses to dramatize it. The phone, with its patient memory, simply shows what choices were made, what priorities were followed, and what actions were repeated when the world wasn't looking. That consistency, when laid bare, becomes the final judgment on character, integrity, and intent. And here lies the quiet irony. The person who feared being discovered often imagined exposure as the end of consequence. In truth, exposure is never the end. It is the conclusion, the verdict. The act of revealing only enforces what has always existed, leaving no room for excuses or reinterpretation. In the end, exposure is not punishment, it is recognition. The phone doesn't create lies or truths, it archives them. When the time comes for revelation, it delivers the verdict without bias, without delay, and without mercy. What was hidden is finally visible, and the story that could no longer be defended ends decisively, leaving nothing behind but documented reality. Every secret leaves a trace, every choice writes a story, and every action, no matter how hidden, quietly builds the truth. Phones are no longer just tools, they are mirrors of reality, patient and unyielding. They reveal the person behind the mask, expose contradictions between public image and private behavior, and show the patterns that define who someone really is. From deleted messages to repeated habits, from private searches to carefully stored receipts, every piece of evidence quietly constructs a portrait that words, excuses, or charm can never erase. The lies crumble not in dramatic confrontation, but in the silent clarity of documented truth. What this teaches us is profound. Appearances only matter until reality speaks. Confidence based on secrecy is fragile. Loyalty that is conditional is exposed. Curiosity that was thought harmless becomes a revelation. Every action, every habit, every hidden intention captured digitally tells a story far more honest than the carefully crafted persona someone shows the world. Exposure is not an end. It is the verdict. The truth doesn't wait for permission or apology. It simply exists, patient and precise, ready to be seen. So take a moment to reflect on this. What you do when no one is watching speaks louder than what you say in the spotlight. Actions, habits, and choices are the ultimate evidence, and they define the reality that no performance can rewrite. Secrets may hide for a time, but eventually, what is true finds a way to be known. If this breakdown opened your eyes and gave you that aha moment, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button for more deep dives that uncover hidden truths. Comment your thoughts, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. The truth doesn't wait, and now neither should you. Stay awakened, chosen ones.